Good morning, everyone. This is Jeff Goldberg from the Sales Pro Network. I'm broadcasting to you on Facebook Live from Long Island, New York, and I'm very, very excited. First, let me welcome you to the Sales Pro Network. I founded the Sales Pro Network as a place for salespeople to get together, ask questions, and get coached by not just me, but other sales experts like our fabulous guest today. A place where you can ask questions and get answers, where you can share your success stories, your challenges, and really it's designed to elevate the profession of sales. I happen to be a sales trainer, coach, consultant, and outsourced sales manager with over 4 decades of experience. And I will beg your indulgence today because occasionally I'll be looking down at the comments. If you have any questions for our guest today, just put them in the comments section. I can't promise to always see them because as you put them in, they keep going up and up on the screen. Also, I beg your indulgence. If I'm not looking like I'm looking our guest in the eye, I don't mean to him any disrespect because I promise you I want to hear every word that he says. But it just means I'm looking down at the comments or at my notes. So I want to start out with a very brief anecdote about, hopefully very brief, about how I first ran into our guest today. I got a call about, I think a decade ago from the gentleman who I consider to be my biggest competitor here on Long Island. His name is Rich Isaac. And at the time, he was the sole owner of the Sandler franchise sales system in Suffolk County on Long Island. And Rich called me and after a few pleasantries, he said, here's the reason I'm calling you. I'm about to take on a partner. His name is Rob Fishman. And I happen to know that Rob is very good friends with your best client. And I'm calling you to let you know that and to see how you feel about us actually going after that business since they have this relationship. So as you can imagine, my mind went a little bit crazy because who wants to hear that their biggest competitor now has an in with their best client? So I answered as best as I could at the moment saying, look, first of all, Rich, if the situation was reversed, I'm not so sure that I would have made this call to you, although I hope I would do that today. And second of all, of course, do what you've got to do. And we hung up the phone. And that was my first impression of our guest today, even though I hadn't met him yet. His name had a negative connotation because he had this relationship. So I'd like to fast forward. Over the years, I've run into our guest many times at mostly networking functions, and I've always found him to be friendly and cordial. And we've always shaken hands and had a brief chat, but we've never, ever discussed sales. And I had the incredible opportunity about a month ago to be on a panel discussion with our guest today. And I'd be shortchanging it if I said I was anything less than truly blown away. In fact, so blown away that I sent him an email afterwards saying, hey, I hope you won't use this in your marketing materials, but I was blown away by everything you said and the way you said it today, so much so that if I needed sales training, I'd pay you huge amounts of money to train me. So with that, it's my pleasure to welcome our guest today, Rob Fishman. How are you today, Rob?
Doing great, Jeff, and thank you. And it's a great anecdotal story to tell about our beginnings. We learned that you can a second time make a good first impression. So hopefully that impression has changed over the years. That we do have mutual respect for each other. I'm really honored that you invited me on the show, and for us to work together. Really sharing best practices. Now we talked originally about how we basically have the same belief system about what sales and sales leadership should look like, but we may be playing the same sheet music, but our interpretation of the music may be different. It may be in the tempo and cadence. So I really am glad to be here and happy to have a discussion with you as an expert also about, hey, let's bounce some stuff off each other. What are some concepts that people struggle with? And let's figure out ways that we can help everybody, especially now.
That sounds great. Before we get started, could you maybe just share a little bit about your background and what brought you to Sandler and why you like that system?
Sure. That's 3 lives. Like a cat has 9 lives. This is my 3rd life. First life is as a professional musician, conservatory trained, still active in music, although we're not performing now. But a lot of stuff I was trained as a percussion major, conducting, and then piano. From there, went into the family jewelry business for 35 years, ran it, built it up, sold it about 12 years ago. So you could say I'm a recovering retailer. I wrote a book on retail selling, having been exposed to that. But I found that when I had my business and had such great people that worked for me at that time, that I found that I was drawn towards the sales process. I was drawn towards how people communicate and learning more about some of the common mistakes that we were making in the retail world. In other words, educating people to the point of giving way too much information rather than asking better questions was really like the first lesson learned. So we started to have weekly meetings, and they were sales meetings. And I found, God, I really love this. So now I'm like reading books and learning more about it and getting involved with any kind of sales training I could get my hand on. And it's actually through music that I ended up in this business. And the story of that behind this is that you talked about your best client. So I was introduced to Rich through our best client at the time. She is now currently the CEO of the company. He is one of my closest friends who happens to be a cardiologist and a drummer. All right. So we were in a band together. We became very friendly. And it was through her introduction to Rich, because the next step for me after I sold my jewelry business was, well, what's the next chapter, Rob? I don't know. I really love this idea of working with people and helping them be better. So that's what ended up the introduction to Rich, who says, you know, Rob, I had to take that call. It was my biggest client saying, I don't know, you should probably meet this guy, Rob. And I knew that when we met for the first time, that this was my destiny. And it was sort of like the path to this moment really is one that just, it fell into place at such the right time for me. So that's my path here.
Fantastic. So I think we should start with something that I just talked about, which is the importance of relationship. I know a lot of sellers are incredibly transactional. Could you speak maybe a little bit about how you feel that relationship plays in both getting and keeping customers?
Relationship, well, first and foremost, is we know that people buy from people they like and who are like them. So the other part of that is, what can we do that's in our power to create an environment of openness and trust? So we have a question we ask rhetorically, but what is your strategy to create trust with another human being? All right. And that, I've learned that from a colleague of mine. What a powerful statement about, we think about, what does trust truly mean? Is it the benchmark to help communicate to get to the truth? And think about how many times that prospects lie to salespeople, or maybe the vice versa, that communication and openness comes from understanding what that buyer is all about. Are they direct? Are they to the point? Or are they more engaging, more talkative? Are they a little bit more withdrawn? They tend to be very nice, or they tend to be more analytical and maybe less direct. But I think the mastery here is understanding that communication piece. And we find that so many times that we fall out of rapport too quickly because we make assumptions without really truly learning about that buyer. Body language, obviously, rate of speech, those critical elements.
I think that quite often salespeople are too concerned about time, and that what they think is the prospect wants them to get in their office or on the phone with them and off as quickly as possible. And they kind of pray or bow down to the almighty client. I'm here to respect your time, actually thanking them in advance for their time, which is something I don't recommend. I actually like it when prospects and clients thank me for my time. But I think it's important to be less concerned with the time and more concerned with investing that time to develop the relationship. And you said it, you can only do that through communication.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I think the most burning, hello to everybody who's joined us so far. The most burning question is, what do you think sellers need to do to bring in business now? We're in the middle of this horrid pandemic and people are freaking out. What advice do you have for sellers to bring in business right now?
So we could look at it one of two ways. It's a great question, Jeff. Let's look at one of two ways. We can go tactical right now, which is what most people are doing. They're going doing little things to try to do it. But let's, if we can for this conversation, take this up here. Let's go more strategic here. Because if you think about what we need to be doing, there's actually going to be 4 separate categories for anybody who wants to write notes down, or this is going to be recorded. But this is so critically important right now. I'm going to hold up a piece of paper that you might have seen before. And it's really using the 4 letters of care. And what I mean by that is, it's the art of, and the business generation has 4 pistons on this engine that need to be firing as well as they can, getting the maximum out of it. Keeping business, keeping clients is the K. For those that have repeat business, monthly retainer clients, remember this: your best client or your best customer is someone else's best prospect. So what is going to be the retention strategies that you have to keep your customer around longer? that you're providing value on it, there are actually 16 client retention factors, not one or two. If we really want to think strategically, we can actually go through a list now, look at every one of our clients and say, are we at risk? What are we doing to prevent us being a liability, really, truly a liability, by them saying, we have to cut expenses, you're out. What can we do to build more value? But most importantly, we talked about this earlier, Jeff, is what are we doing to create a sense of dependency? What is it that we can do? Our products and offerings, what we have, whether it's a product or service that we're giving, is going to create dependency. Now let's move over to A, attaining business, prospecting. We know right after the COVID pandemic hit, people were skittish. People did not want to prospect. What? How could you possibly be calling me now in the middle of a pandemic? Can't you see? It's not a good time. We did this in a session yesterday where I said, what are some of the things that you're hearing and how to react to it? And so many people are hearing these words, it's not a good time, or it's not the right time, right? So what are we doing now to create structure? We said earlier before, it's not about doing different things. It's about doing the same things differently. In other words, and you would agree with this too, Jeff, probably, that you cannot stop prospecting now, right? And if all the studies are done there about the top salespeople out there, they're spending at least half their time looking for new business opportunities, which we'll talk about. R is for recapture. What are we doing for past clients, past transactions? Are we re-engaging with them? There's so much opportunity there right now. People look back at their lists and say, you know what, we haven't even been in touch in a while. Maybe contacting them on LinkedIn, touching them, not selling them. No. This is a reconnect, re-engage, because of thinking how many introductions might come out of that revival of a relationship. And then finally, E is for expanding opportunities. Hey, you've got rockstar clients. We've got rockstar clients. What are we doing to supply value, give additional offerings that will seriously help them at the end of the day? So I think for anybody, if they're looking at their business strategically, look at all four pistons on the engine and say, are we operating at absolute peak efficiency? And if we're not, then take proactive steps to fix that area. And that's how people are going to be able to not just survive, but really to thrive going forward.
Yeah, I think that, and the coaching I've been giving my clients is, because people are afraid on both sides, but salespeople are very skittish. I like that word, to prospect right now, because they're afraid of the reaction they're going to get. How dare I call anybody when they're worried about their health, their family's health, the health of their business, and so on. But I think that you're actually doing your prospects and your clients a disservice if you have something that can truly help them if you're not contacting them now. You're actually doing them a disservice. You owe it to them, and you owe it to yourself and your family. Now, if you have some BS product to sell that I have no interest in, like right now, I'm not interested in any calls about solar for my home. I don't need that. It's a good thing to have, I'm sure, but I don't need that right now. But if you've got something that can help my business, if you've got some CRM system or some marketing automation that can help me reach out to more prospects and bring in more business, I want to hear about it. So I think we all owe it to ourselves to A, do that if we can actually help people, and B, to do it with empathy, to make sure that we're being empathetic and reaching out to people by truly caring about them. You mentioned something earlier about salespeople lying. That's one of the purposes of this group, is really to elevate the profession of sales. If you have to lie to sell your product, you need to go find a different product to sell, because as lovely as it is to make a bunch of money, and I think we both agree that sales is an opportunity to make a crap load of money, but if you've got to lie to do that, how are you going to sleep at night? So I want to move on to something else. I don't know how many years of total sales experience do you have, Rob?
Well, it's such a great question when you ask that, Jeff, because I ask people the same question. They say, how many years have you been in sales? I've been in sales for probably close to 40 years. Or in some cases, when people are mediocre salespeople, which is code word for poor salespeople, they're in sales 1 year, 40 times, right? In other words, they never really got any better. They just continue. It's like a hack playing golf. Like they never really do anything to improve their game. They're just kind of mediocre, right? So that's the reason why you brought that. Before you move on to your next question, I just want to bring something up. We there's a saying about that it is unethical for a salesperson to sell something to somebody they do not need, right? But it's also unethical to not sell someone something they need, right? And think about our responsibility in the world of sales is we are keeping the economy moving along by helping provide goods and services. I agree with you, Jeff. It's up 100% that we have a very noble profession, and done in an ethically way, done with full integrity, is really the standards I think we both agree on are absolutely mandated in this profession.
Yeah, I was a big fan of Zig Ziglar when he was alive, and still not now that he's passed. And Zig used to say that sell comes from the Swedish word sälja, S-E-L-J-E. Now, I actually looked it up, and it doesn't mean what he says it means. He said it means to serve. It doesn't mean that, but I really like that thought, because I think that is our job. It's our job to serve our customers, the economy, our families. So the question I had for you, you've got 40 plus years in sales, so do I. Certainly things have changed from 40 years ago when I started, so 47 years ago. But I think a lot has changed in the last 5 years or so. What do you think? Do you think selling has changed a lot? And if so, what do you think has really changed?
I think technology, to answer your question, has been the major disruptive force. And if you think about how technology has impacted all of us, to the point of the little things, including CRM systems or retention management. It also includes other things such as the apps we use every day to help improve our performance. The way the world is shaped right now. Look what we're doing right now. We are now conducting business by remote technology. And one of these moments now is that video conferencing is the new normal going forward. The whole idea of working from home is the new normal. That, I am in the lower level of my home right now. This is not a real boardroom. This is a green screen, right? We've all got these right now. So that's what's happened right now. But what's really fascinating about that is how sales leaders need to catch up with their sales teams to be able to give them the coaching they need, because again, they have not really managed remote teams as well as they can. The suggestion we made is follow the model of an inside sales team, because they're the ones that have relied on outbound phone calls. They're not meeting customers or clients as much, and follow their lead, the metrics they've created and the way that they've acted professional and the way they've mastered using phone. This has become the new normal. Technology _ disruptive force. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. I don't know about you, but I've always considered inside sales to be the most difficult sale there is. You don't get to see your prospect and they don't get to see you, and it's hard to establish rapport. Plus, you can measure everything. I've managed inside sales team, and I can measure how long it takes you to go to the bathroom and come back to get on the phone. So very difficult. Hi to Ryan Dunphy, Greg Kettner, Lisa Levitin, Michael Rosenberg, Steve Kent. I can't see the rest of the names who have already joined us, but Lisa has a question for you, Rob. Lisa asks, what type of talk tracks do you recommend?
I need a little bit more definition when you say talk tracks.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I'm going to take a wild guess that Lisa is saying when you call people on the phone, perhaps to get an appointment. How do you approach putting together that kind of maybe an opening, and how do you handle that conversation?
So the first 8 seconds.
Sorry, Lisa, if that is not what you meant, please type in what you actually meant.
Yeah, we could take this. Both you and I have taught prospecting, so I look at the 8 seconds is the initial make or break point. Hi Jeff, Rob Fishman, Sandler Training. Yeah, and you respond.
Yes, hi, I'm here. Sorry.
Yeah, Jeff, sounds like you don't know who I am.
I don't. Who are you?
Don't rack your brain. I don't think we've ever met. Hey, let me take 28 seconds to tell you the purpose of my call. You could decide if you want to talk further. Fair? Right. In other words, that in that respect, it's a pattern interrupt. I could have done it a different way, like, hey, Jeff, Rob Fishman, Sandler Training, right? Or hey, Jeff, Rob Fishman, or how about this one? Yes. Yes is an indicator of I am a salesperson. Yes, it's Rob Fishman. Yes, right? So those little things go into the package of like, well, if we think, act, taste, and smell like salespeople, we're going to get treated that way. So what are we doing? Our approach is mutual agreement up front, right? Mutual understanding, mutual equal level stature is exactly how we approach it, because we've got 8 seconds to make or break it, right? And then I said, hey, you mind if I take 28 seconds and tell you the purpose of my call? And most people say, go. And now that point, as you know, is insert your 30-second commercial with 3 black belt pain statements, pain indicators, third-party story, non-confrontational, no pressure. Basically, here are some of the things I hear when I talk to business owners. They will share the following challenges. Challenge 1, challenge 2, challenge 3. Hey, look, before I go any further, is any of this relevant in your world, worth a conversation? And then shut up, right? And again, that's a format, and I know you've taught the same stuff as well. Again, it's the sheet music, right? It's the same goal, is to have the prospect start talking, right? Just start the conversation going. So that's, if I think talk tracks is, I will tell you the canned pitch, dead on arrival. Canned pitches are what, might have been done 40, 50 years ago. That was like, I'm ready here. Here's my product. It's so interesting how many people still sell to the what and the how. They're selling to the prefrontal cortex of the brain. They're selling to if then else. They're selling to logic and reasoning, features and benefits. If we want to create differentiation, go in a different direction. Starting to why. Why do you think you'd want to have a conversation? What are some of the common challenges? And from there, we can engage in a dialogue, but nobody's selling anybody anything at this point. We are looking for some sort of mutual consensus to continue a dialogue for mutual understanding. I think there's such a misunderstanding about selling. What is really great selling? Championship selling. It's about self-discovery. Jeff, you would agree with me on this. It's the moment when your prospect repeats back to you something you help them to discover that they themselves were not aware of. Period.
And it's all done through questioning. It's sales is just a conversation, in my opinion. And Lisa said, yes, this is exactly what she was looking for. Do you change that at all during this current climate?
Yeah, I think one of the things we talked about not doing different things, but doing the same things differently. Before I started, say, look, I would imagine you must be up to your eyeballs and a lot of pressing issues right now. And it may not make sense for us to talk. And if it doesn't, it's okay. Let me take that 30 seconds and share the purpose of my call. And you can tell me if you want to continue, and it's okay if you don't. In other words, selling away, pulling it away and let people have space. People love to buy it, hate to be sold. So I am not putting any pressure here. I'm going to take a step back. It's almost like the difference of a karate expert and an Aikido expert, right? Karate's forceful this way. Aikido's taking a step back. It's your energy here. You can determine the conversation. And that's the interesting part about this is when we put pressure on prospects, that's where the defense mechanisms come up, or the Heisman Trophy stance. Right? Don't sell me anything. I'm not interested. But how do we facilitate this initial conversation of self-discovery by a prospect? And that's going to come from just asking really great questions. It's time for an inventory check for everybody, about technique, which I'll talk about in a little bit.
Yeah. I'm not a big fan of people asking, is this a good time to talk? Because it almost never is, but I really like that. Do you have 28 seconds? Because it's such an easy, gentle ask. And who's going to say no to that? They picked up the phone. So 28 seconds. And then you're right. You got to get right to the point. I love this.
Hey, Jeff, another one. You've probably done this too. It's like, hey, Jeff, this is a sales call. You want to hang up now? Right? I mean, literally, why are we hiding around that? It's like, I'm just going to come around and say, is it a sales call? You want to hang up now? Or if you want to give me 28 seconds, I'll tell you the purpose of my call. You decide if you want to talk further. Fair?
Absolutely right. I'm a big fan of being direct. I call it the Jeff Goldberg School of Direct Selling. And typically direct selling means selling face to face, but why not be honest and direct? You've got nothing to lose. Ira Spector, hi Ira, hi Randy, hi Michael Rosenberg. Ira says, with lots of supply chain issues, and they're still getting worse before better, my sales reps are starting to get the no stock pushback frustration from clients. Any suggestions on how to make them understand and accept alternatives?
So this is something, all right, let's place these into two buckets right now, because I think this is what happens. If it's something we have no control over, all right, versus something we have control over. So I would redirect this to you, Jeff, when you think about it, right? When you're asked a question like that, is there any control that we have? We do. The prospect's reaction or customer's reaction to it and our reaction to it, right? And can we learn more about some of the issue? And what happens very often is we try to talk a way out of it, and it just frustrates the customer even more. Confronting the brutal facts head on. The Stockdale paradox in the book Good to Great is confronting the brutal facts. We cannot argue with that. There are certain things that are not in our control, but what is in our control are the things we need to focus on right now. What could we be doing to add additional value that might help offset the challenge of something that may not be in our control? And that is a challenge. Well, I've got the same thing with clients. I know you've had it with yours as well. So let's focus on the things that we have complete control over. Now, again, we can go to operations, we can go to shipping, go to supply chain, say, what are you guys doing? Let's go, chop, chop. They're saying, we have no control. It's coming from overseas. We can't get it. We don't have the product. Now we've got to go back and think to the following. I talked before about keep accounts. This is the critical piece. Your best customer, someone else's best prospect. What are you doing to build value? That's not in your control. Then go back to the team and have a meeting about what some additional offerings we can give in light of this challenge that we have no control over, and face the things we have control over. That would be my suggestion.
Yeah, again, it's being direct and honest. I call it acknowledging the obvious. Look, if I can help you, I'm going to, and if I can't, I'm going to tell you that too, and I'm going to try to make a recommendation that will help you. Mike Rosenberg is asking, can you speak to the difference between training and coaching?
Yes, I learned this lesson early on. So for a number of years, I was trained as a TAB facilitator and ran TAB board meetings, business owner meetings, and went to Denver and worked with Jackie Grenay of TAB in Suffolk County. We had I was there and I ran a board. Originally set up as a sales board. It just morphed into a business owner board. And when I was there, I went for coaching training. And one of my colleagues said to me, "You don't understand the difference." And I said, "Guilty. I really don't understand the difference." I thought, well, coaching is showing them how to do it. No, it's not. Training is showing them how to do it. Coaching is providing an environment of self-discovery by asking amazing questions. And interesting, Jeff, you do a lot of sales management, outsourced coaching, and you work with clients that way. Isn't that the case when you're working with salespeople as a manager? Is to ask questions and get them to discover for themselves? It's the same process. So coaching is not showing them how to do it. It is completely different function. And by the way, even managers and leaders, what is the amount of time they're spending in the 4 hats, as you know, of leadership? Supervising, coaching, mentoring, training. Most managers don't spend enough time or are ill-equipped as coaches. And coaches is probably one of the most critical functions. Not supervising. Hey, did you do your behavior? Did you make those calls? Did you go on those appointments? Let me look at your numbers. Let's look at your pipeline. That's supervisory, right? That's my supervisor hat on. Coach hat on, got the whistle around my neck. Okay, let's talk about it. Let's rally you up, right? Let's help you, if you're an A player, to get to A+. How are you doing? What are some things I can help you with? Let's talk about your performance here, but how you find, what's some things you might be struggling with? That's great coaching.
Yeah, I train sales managers in a program called the Sales Managers Strategist, Trainer, and Coach. And it's really sales management 101. And I feel it's essential because, as you know, Rob, most sales managers are salespeople that got promoted. They've paid them everything they can pay them. They've won every contest. They've done everything they can. Now management goes, how are we going to keep Rob on board? Oh, I know, let's promote him. But they give you a promotion. They say, hey, Rob, guess what? We're going to make you a manager. And it sounds great to you because it sounds like you're going to work less and make more, when the opposite's absolutely true. But they never teach you how to manage. So I think it's crucial. And the most important part of those 4 hats that you mentioned is the coaching part. Salespeople, my opinion is this: the only salesperson that does not need a highly effective sales manager working with them is a superstar. And most salespeople simply are not superstars. They're what I call plotters. And that's not an insult, but it's just they're average. And that's okay. The sales manager's job is, how do I take my average salesperson and help them earn more and do more and get more activity? And how do I train them and coach them to excel?
You may have found this, Jeff, in your experience, how many sales managers spend 80% of their time with 20% of the sales team. And usually it's not in the right part of the team. So again, we may have a violent agreement here, which my partner, Rich Isaac, refers to all the time. We're having a violent agreement. But what's interesting about this is the amount of time that we spend, but also what do we do with those A players? The climbers, the ones that are always looking for the next level. I mean, we've all had clients like that where they've got these rock star people that are not afraid of rejection. They just pick up and move on. They got their mind screwed on right about looking for opportunities on a regular basis, but they're willing to grow. It's almost like the analogy of the greatest athletes have coaches, and do those coaches push them to even the next level? If I've got somebody who really has the willingness to grow, that's an A player, why wouldn't I coach that person the same way and coach them harder and saying, there's more out of you? Well, how would that person feel if they go from A to A+, meaning they're blowing through their quota and they're looking for the next horizon? So I put that out there because we spend a lot of time in managers working in the movable middle, and that's where I think, in terms of being more effective for anybody who's coaching salespeople now, is reevaluate where you're spending your time. And maybe you want to allocate more time to those people you think, yeah, we should leave them alone. I don't know if I agree totally with that.
Yeah, and the other thing I find with sales managers quite often is they're spending way too much on the supervisory stuff, the paperwork and the meetings and the reports, and all that stuff's important, but there's nothing more important than helping your salespeople make more money. In my opinion, any smart sales organization understands that if I can just make my salespeople successful, money's gonna flow up. And in regards to that, what do you think business and sales leaders can do to prepare better?
What they can do prepare right now is behavior. I'm actually going to approach it in three areas: behavior, attitude, technique. Behavior is all going to be about what they're doing. Now, as you know better than anybody, salespeople have a recipe of functions, and anybody's watching the show right now can certainly take a pen and write down what are the three activities as a sales professional you're doing right now to generate new opportunities. And just jot them down. So behavior. But as you know, how do we know if what we're doing is really working? So a lot of them are not really measuring all those intermediate results. You know, as you know, net new appointments or introductions or referrals received, meaningful conversations. That's all behavioral based stuff. Doing behavior. Next, mindset. To prepare right now, getting out of the non-supportive belief business. And non-supportive beliefs are the things that people are saying that are wearing salespeople down. It's interesting. We just had a discussion in a session recently about the word objection. You know, like I think of a court of law: objection overruled, objection sustained. And when a prospect gives an objection, not the right time, not a good time, so much going on, we can't get orders, we have no business, things are slow. Isn't that an opinion? So can't we just change our mindset about what we look as what was an objection is someone else's opinion? And if we as salespeople and sales professionals look at it that it is somebody's opinion, wouldn't we back down a little bit and be less forceful in our approach? I hear the word rebuttal. It's an opinion. And why as salespeople can we just, if we think about mindset, when somebody says it's not the right time, not challenge it, but say, I completely understand. So help me understand, if you wouldn't mind, let's take a step back and tell me, aside from this, what isn't working the way that you'd like it to work, right? Or tell me why it isn't a good time for you in a very, very nurturing way. So that's attitude. Technique. What better time than now to be working on, when we open our mouths to sell, how do we sound? Would you buy from you? In other words, it's a self-reflection time. And this is a time when people, I'm sure, are reaching out to you, Jeff. I know you said that before, is to get help. This is the time for black belts, and not even black belts, getting beyond the first degree, but to the ninth degree. I showed a video yesterday of a ninth degree black belt breaking 584 bricks, cement bricks, in 57 seconds. Right. And it was, and I had the class watch this video, and I said, what's going through your mind right now? What do you think this person who is a ninth degree black belt was thinking before they struck the first pile of bricks? Right. And as this guy got tired, and he really did at the end, but he kept going, what was he thinking then? So that's really working. And the mastery comes from the focus and the technique that's being applied. This is the time for any salesperson to be asking yourself these questions. How am I doing? Can I get somebody to give me some feedback? How do I become a better version of myself right now? And those are the three areas I think that people can be doing to better prepare themselves.
Yeah, to violently agree with you, as you said, that word objection really pisses me off. It's what what all us salespeople call it when somebody doesn't agree to do business with us.
Yeah.
But it puts up a negative connotation that somebody's pushing against you. And what happens is when somebody pushes against you, you tend to push back. The phrase I really dislike is overcoming objections. Nobody likes to be overcome. So I always share with people, if you've got to use the word objection, help people work through their objections. Don't try to overcome them. And you said it, the thing you're really trying to do is, instead of fighting with them, which is what the typical salesperson does, they get an objection, they put up their dukes and start fighting. You want to show people, I'm on your side. Let's see if we can work this out together. And if we can, let's do business. And if we can't, let's shake hands and be friends. Maybe we don't do business now. Maybe we do later on, or maybe we never do. But I'm not looking to argue with anybody. I was married for almost 10 years. I'm not looking to argue with anybody.
Yeah, understood. I like what you said. you're the same methodology that you teach. It's very similar, that you're taking a step back, right? And interesting, think of this, like, if we were to be the ones to bring up the objection first, what would happen to the objection, right? Like, in other words, for anybody who is selling to a prospect that already is doing business with your competitor, who is the incumbent, isn't that the elephant in the room? Isn't that the biggest objection? I'm already working with somebody. So if a salesperson brings it up first, hey, listen, before we get started, hey, Jeff, you had mentioned to me that you had been working with ABC Company, I think for about 10 years. Okay. So it sounds to me that you've been pretty happy with the job they've done. So I hope you don't mind me asking this question. So why did you invite me in? Right? Hey, over. They can't use that objection anymore. But you know what? It takes guts, a little bit of sense of humor too, guts to ask a question like that. And you know where the guts comes from? We have this thing called skinny pipeline syndrome. Skinny pipeline syndrome is where salespeople don't really prospect, so they don't really have a lot of stuff in their pipeline, and they start playing not to lose versus playing to win when it comes to opportunities. They cut corners. They start to do a little wishing and hoping. They start to violate the rules. They become too pushy. They get commission breath, right? They just sound like salesy, right? Because they really hope they get this business, and that's what violates this. But if people have a healthy pipeline of opportunities, then they could be much more selective as to the people they choose they'd like to do business with. Imagine that for a second. It's like, not everybody's going to be qualified to be our prospect. So we take a chill pill here. So I'll bring that objection up first. So why did you invite me in? It just takes a little bit of guts.
And it puts you on their side of the table instead of having a table between you. I love that. The other thing I think that's crucial about objections is the way most trainers train it and the way most people do it is objections and rebuttals come after closing. You've gone through your entire sales process. You've asked people in some way, shape, or form, will you do business with me? They give you an objection and now they say no. And now you're going to work through whatever you're going to do, some rebuttals to overcome them. I think that's a huge mistake. I believe that questions are really the key to selling. I think there are three keys: asking the right questions, listening actively, and telling great stories about somebody else who did business with you and it worked out well. So to me, the objections should be coming out during the question asking phase. If you've already got somebody who said no to you, now you're fighting an uphill battle, and I don't want to do that. I only want to work with people who want to work with me. And if I've got to fight with you for your business, I'm in the wrong place, and so are you. And you've got a million great phrases. I love that skinny pipeline syndrome. It's very hard to relax when you don't have enough in your pipeline. And for damn sure, it's nearly impossible to negotiate effectively if you're going to, if you don't have other business that you can rely on. If you need somebody's business too bad, you're not going to be able to walk away. So I'd like to move on. And
Sure.
What do you think would be the most efficient way to ensure sales success through account planning?
Like I said before, those four iconic keep, attain, recapture, expand on account planning side right now. Suggestion, as I'm sure you would do with your clients, look at where your business is coming from percentage wise, how much of it is recurring business that you have right now, what's the percentage of new business you're looking to bring in the door. That's an area of planning right now. And here's another way that you probably do this in prospecting and cookbook planning, which is about what size are the categories you're going after. Most people categorize their accounts by geographic location. They do it by zip code. They do it by size of account, number of employees, all of those ways. And my suggestion here is just go the other way, create a set of customized traits and tendencies for each category. For example, I know that one on attain would be my ideal client. What vertical is it after? What are some of the common issues and challenges they go through? Is a great way to prepare yourself about going after new business right now. Most of the questions we're getting now is about keeping clients and going after new business right now. Those are like the two major ones, but those are the four buckets for account planning, like I said earlier.
Yeah, I think anybody that has not taken the time to develop an ideal client profile, to actually define what their ideal client looks like, is missing the boat. Because how do you know it when they show up if you don't know what you're looking for? So I think it's crucial to take the time to create those definitions for yourself.
Well, think of this, the medical analogy now of a generalist versus a specialist. And now more than ever, I don't know if you hear that, There are folks that we've met at networking events and they say, you know, we're a full service agency, we're a full service company. And respectfully, I struggle with that. It's not really connecting the dots about really being the best in the world at something that's specific and claiming that area. I worked with a wealth advisor, and she's a divorced woman, and she created an ideal client profile called Women in Transition. And women in transition, you'd think these are divorced women. No, they're not. They're divorced and widowed women, but they're also retired CEOs. And she got herself a whole bunch of clients because her focus when she met with networking partners was women in transition. So imagine, like, you see how instantly the dots connected because it was such a specific concept, rather than, yeah, I'm a wealth advisor and I help people. I help people that have money or hoping to hold on to the money so that they don't run out of money before they run out of life, right? But that's what I do. And it just doesn't go anywhere, as opposed to very specific and
yeah,
like,
it's crucial when you're networking to make it easy for the people who you network with or who could supply you with referrals, to make it easy for them to do that. And for example, either of us could say, well, any company that has salespeople is a good prospect for me, which is kind of true. However, the people that we want to give us referrals, it's too big for them to wrap their head around. So right. I might say, well, for example, I've done a lot of work in the world of people who sell advertising, whether magazines, on TV, radio. I've done a lot of work that way. That makes it easier for the other person to focus on, and we always want to do that. Greg Kettner says humor can reduce friction during the sales process. Greg happens to have a background in stand-up comedy. He is a very funny guy. Do you have any opinions on that, using humor in the sales process? I'm always a little concerned with people because my opinion is everybody thinks they're funny. Most people aren't, and you have to be pretty cautious and use appropriate humor. What do you think about that, Rob?
Yeah, so I respectfully, I don't necessarily agree entirely, and I'll tell you why. Let's go back to the 4 different types of communication styles. So, and I could take 30 seconds and go through all 4 styles and give you an impression what they're like, right? So here we go. I'm gonna give you 4, all ready? I'm gonna go through all 4 right now, right? Okay, here's the D. All right, come on, Jeff, let's move this along. We got a lot of things to do. We got a lot of things to cover. We got another 17 minutes. Come on, chop, chop, all right? This is so awesome. I love being on this program this morning. I mean, watching you, you're so intelligent, Jeff, and handsome. And I love watching the pictures of your dog on the beach. Hey, let's get together. Let's hang out. Let's go get a beer. So together, I'd like to work with you and other people as a group so we can really lean on each other and support each other in finding a common way for people to, in a very patient way, work towards a consensus of common comfort. See. I'd like to understand the process behind how you work and what are some of the interesting factors and criteria involved in the process and systems and how you manage your sales process. So there's the 4 styles. Now, if I'm going to come in and I'm going to crack some jokes to the last person, people buy from people they like and who are like them. So the magic here is it's energy management. I'm going to adjust. If I'm a funny guy, that second person, this is awesome. Let's go hang out. They'll love it. They'll be cracking up. A prospect who's laughing is no prospect at all, but somebody who's kind of quiet and reserved and saying, whoa, what did you smoke before you walked in my office might be a challenge. You know, you think about this, and you know this better than anybody, Jeff, is about that people buy from people they like. And if we fall out of rapport in the process, pick up your marbles and go home. It's over. Right. So that's one, respectfully, I put it out there. I'd say, know thy customer. If I got somebody who's like, chop, 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 I don't have time for humor. Just get to the point and show me what you got. No, I'm not going to be taking any jokes. Now, maybe some really dry humor, if we get to know each other a little bit, might come in, but certainly not upfront.
Yeah, he didn't put the word can in capitals, but he probably should have. You know, humor can help reduce friction during the sales process, but you really do have to know the person you're speaking with and be appropriate. Yeah,
absolutely. But think of those layers of trust that have to happen. And trust doesn't happen immediately. You know, trust comes, there's a little bit of like, you know, behind the left ear, right? There's a little bit of like, I doubt you. I don't really trust you yet because I've been told that before. That's called cognitive dissonance. Yeah, I'm not trusting you yet. I've heard that before. We all go through that, right? So what is it that we can do or say or act that will cause somebody to lower their defense walls and create differentiation? Again, what is your strategy to create trust with another human being?
Yeah. And the main thing is you've got to be more interested in them. Dale Carnegie said it's better to be interested than interesting. And if we take the time to learn about the person that we're speaking with, then maybe later on the time for humor is there and you can be as wacky as you want, but not everybody loves that.
Agreed.
I want to speak about my least favorite subject. It's one of my favorite subjects to speak about and to train on, but prospecting. It's the bane of all salespeople's existence. Most salespeople don't like doing it. They're not very good at it. But I know that we agree on this. Without prospecting, you're screwed. If you don't have enough people to speak with, have initial conversations with, there's no way that enough's going to come out of the pipeline at the other end. So going forward, what do you see as the most effective methods for salespeople to fill their pipelines consistently?
Let's go back for a second, Jeff, because I think the piece about technology is embracing the disruptive force of technology and leveraging it to our abilities. You had Beth Granger on using LinkedIn strategies. Most people now are embracing LinkedIn, using social selling as an important part of how they're doing it. In other words, it's not just about selling on LinkedIn, it's about connecting on LinkedIn, which leads to an incredible process of introductions. And as you've taught people before, referrals, introductions, endorsements, that comes from having worked with people before, knowing people, not just, hey, we don't know each other, but building relationships is another important part. I ask everybody, write down the 3 things you're doing now, whether it's using LinkedIn, making targeted calls. By targeted, it may not be just warm, it may be cold and warm. If you're using emails to communicate, if you are using referrals or networking as another form, write down 3 things and give yourself a score on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 is, I really suck at this. And 10 is, I am a ninja. I can break 584 bricks, right? And that's where, do a self-evaluation. Because this is the problem I think most people face, is they rely on one activity. And that's just shortchanging ourselves. 3, if not 4 activities consistently, like bathing, according to Zig Ziglar, right? It's something we recommend doing daily. And it need not be crazy. It's methodical and it's done. The whole beauty of LinkedIn is that it can be done off hours. It necessarily not when people are open to take your call, although most people are around to take your call now. But imagine that strategy. Also, account planning, vertical. What are you going after? But I'll tell you, behavior, doing behavior each and every day, consistently, and monitor the progress, as you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime you stop prospecting, somewhere down the line, there's going to be a period where you just cannot bring in sales. And I just saw a study the other day by the Rain Group, and I was stunned because we get these questions all the time. Does cold calling still work? 60% of C-level executives still prefer salespeople to reach out to them by phone. We both know it's challenging to do. It's hard to get people to take your call and to return your voicemail. But 60% of the C-level executives still said they want salespeople to contact them by phone. So, if you do it well, if you do it with finesse, you can still I say it's still the most cost and time effective way to fill up your pipeline with appointments if you don't have them now. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, we were talking about, gatekeepers. People, some people are afraid of, because they get gatekeepers. Like, what is this about? Who is this? What will he or she? All that poetry that comes out, right? And very often we see this, that if you want to get past gatekeepers, get referred in. Right. We can talk about tactics around how to get around gatekeepers. I guess, we talk that because a gatekeeper is not your mother. We tend to do this mother may I thing with gatekeepers, right? Will he or she know? Well, yes, I'm this, and whatever we say to the gatekeeper is going to get us killed every time anyway, right? So that's one of the strategies here. And I think that most people that come to the table looking to prospect need to come there with a plan. Like, what are the 3 or 4 things I'm going to be doing? And one of them might include going on LinkedIn and doing the research. Then by the time that phone call is made, that's where we have an opportunity to have somebody pick up the phone and engage in a dialogue.
Well, you actually just mentioned the word that I was going to base my next question on. So a perfect segue. I've had a conversation with my coach, the amazing Liz Bentley, about asking for referrals. And
yes.
her feeling on it was, I don't ask for referrals. I would never ask for referrals. I think it's rude to ask for referrals, because I was sharing with her, you should be asking for referrals. And her feeling is, and I certainly see the logic is, you should be so incredibly good at what you do that you don't have to ask for referrals. And the proof is, I've referred Liz a bunch of times because she is so amazing at what she does that she's never once had to ask. She wouldn't do it anyways, but she's never once had to ask me, Jeff, who do you know that I should be speaking with? So what's your feeling about actually asking for referrals? And if you feel the same way that I do, that sometimes it is necessary, what's the best way to ask?
So let's change the mindset, because I think, again, if we go to attitude, behavior, and technique, this is the number one issue where people are, number one, afraid, scared, tentative, not sure. They may upset somebody by the whole idea of the word referral. So let's just get really tactical and just cross out the word referral and just get rid of it. It's all about introductions. Now, introductions, passive introductions versus active introductions, right? And I think that there's a certain way to go about this. The quality of service, for example, Liz Bentley is a rock star as a coach. She is awesome. You're in great hands with her. That here's an idea where she delivers, and she not only meets expectations, Jeff, she exceeds the expectations. So you have become a raving fan, to quote Randy Bussey, right? You have become a raving fan. So in an opportunity, you hear an opportunity of somebody who may be struggling with something as a leader, and you're saying to this person, hey, can I share with you somebody I'm working with right now, and this is how she's helped me. Would it make sense for me to make an introduction for you, right? And that's where Liz is coming from, that happens passively because of the service that she's delivering. But I would say to anybody is, check yourself about the quality of the deliverables that you're giving to your clients. And does it warrant somebody that the gravy here is that passively you get introductions to other people. Hey, we've had it. I know you've had it in your business as well, that people rave about the work you've done, and naturally that flows in. So that's the first thing for me. I would just get out of the referrals business. Here's another mistake that most people make when it comes to this whole introductions thing. They put the monkey on the back of the person who's asking. And that is just a big mistake. Let's change it up. Let's take on the monkey. If we're seeking additional business and we have somebody that we have a great relationship with, and it's easy enough for looking on LinkedIn and noticing that there's somebody that might be somebody you think for mutual opportunity you can engage with, there's nothing wrong with saying to anyone, hey, I was doing my LinkedIn thing. I noticed I came across Bob Smith. How well do you know Bob? And you might get a response. And by the way, you've also reconnected with somebody you may haven't spoken to in a while. Hey, Rob, hey, let's catch up. It's been a long time. So there's the added plus. But now, if I now connect with them, they'll say, well, I know them really well. Would you be comfortable? And only if you're comfortable, if I'm to write an email for you, you can just copy and paste it. Would you be willing to do that? And if not, let's just leave it be. And by the way, there's a 70% chance that your trusted person partner will actually copy and paste and send the intro. Jeff meet Rob, Rob meet Jeff. I think you two should connect and see where there's mutual opportunity. All the best, right? So that's my philosophy on that. I would just call them introductions, but referrals, people are very tentative about asking and giving, and they don't know how to ask the question. They struggle. They don't know. Well, Jeff, is there anybody that you can think of that could use some services that I provide? And you're like, yeah, if I think of somebody, I'll let you know. That doesn't do anything.
Yeah, that's a yes, no question. I think a better question, if you're going to ask at all, is, hey, Rob, as you probably know, I build my business through direct introductions or referrals from people just like you. Who do you know that I should be speaking with?
Yep.
I've found from personal experience that when I ask that question, especially of satisfied clients, they're often very forthcoming. Now, they already like me, they already trust me, they already know I want the business, but I'm not the first thing on their mind. So I think to make it easy for them to give me that introduction or referral, I'll ask that question.
Can I build on that?
Please.
We have a mental file cabinet. And like the Verizon wireless commercial, the guys with the black glasses that's standing by 250 behind, 250 people behind. We have a mental file cabinet. And what good a job are we doing of opening up someone else's mental file cabinet to connect the dots of people. And that's on us to do a better job. So to build on what you said before, who do you know? Hey, Jeff, it may be somebody you see at the beach every day when you walk your dog. It may be somebody you have dinner with. It may be a family relative. It may be somebody that you go to the club with, right? In other words, are we doing a better job of opening that mental file cabinet? And that's on us to be better at.
Yeah, make it easy for people to help you.
Yeah.
I can't believe we're running out of time, and I still have a ton of questions. So I want to give you a chance at the end to. I'll try to share the information you put up there, but to tell people how they can get in touch with you. But in the few moments we have left, if you could only give salespeople one tip, the one thing that would help them close more business now or bring in more business right now, what's that most important thing that you would tell them?
Would I be terribly difficult if I said 3?
Not at all.
Okay, let's go back to BAT, behavior. It's not how we feel that determines how we act. It's how we act that determines what we feel, how we feel. We tend to shortchange this, do the behavior. Pick it, have the discipline, guts, and vitality, do the behavior every day that you can. That's 1. 2, attitude. Find the root cause of what we call self-limiting beliefs or head trash, because we all have it. We got 60,000 thoughts a day. 72 to 78% of them are negative or self-limiting. Not a good time. I probably shouldn't be calling them now. And rework that, rewire that. And how are you going to do that? By taking different actions. Doing the behavior will help you with those self-limiting beliefs. That's something we believe in. Number 3 is technique. What better time to check yourself? Are you asking enough questions? Are you talking too much? Are you setting good agreements through the process? Are you creating an environment of mutual openness and trust? And if you're not, then talk to somebody who can help you in getting that level from here to here. Again, if you think of that, even the black belts, the ones that are accomplished, first discover there's a whole world above that. So if you think you're pretty darn good, there may be opportunity for even more improvement, and seek out those that can really help you elevate your game. It's sort of what we call the flat mirror exercise. In other words, a role play culture in a company is let's hear how you sound and let's coach to how you sound. So always seeking improvement. Those are the 3 tips I would give.
Yeah, one of the reasons I was, excuse me, so desperately excited to have you here today is because I'm hopefully intelligent enough to know I don't know everything. I still read most of the sales books that come out. I still go to seminars because I can't know it all. I can't tell you how much I appreciate your giving up some of your time today. I'm sure that everybody feels the same way I do, that it was incredibly valuable. And I'm going to try to share my screen right now and put up your contact information. But if you would, yeah, here we go. Would you just tell people what it is that you do and how you can help them and how they can get in touch with you? And I believe I'm sharing your information now.
First of all, I can't thank you enough for having me here, and also mutual respect back your way. You've built a very respectable sales training practice, and you are well known and well respected. So thank you, brother, for having me on this. Yeah, we're sales training, sales leadership. We're in the Hauppauge Industrial, or now the Hauppauge Innovation Park. Clients international, national, as well as local. And certainly for anybody who would like to connect on LinkedIn, it is really for us to find mutual opportunity. I'd like to learn more about you and how we might be able to collaborate in a way that introductions for you. I'm happy to do that. Being in the business world for a number of years, I'm happy to share any experience I have that will help you and help the community. The message here is about us. We're all in this together. Also give to get. So let's just put it out there. If there's ways we can help each other, like what Jeff is doing in his educational programs, let's just continue to do this. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much, Rob, truly. And thank you to everybody for joining us. If you found value today, and I cannot possibly imagine that you didn't, please share this information with your friends. We'd love to have them to be a part of the Sales Pro Network, and everybody go out and make it an outstanding day. Thanks again, Rob.
Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate it.